Hey everyone, so today is our 10th episode and we're going to do something a little bit different than we've done before. This is a milestone for us, so I'm really thankful that you've stuck around with us, and we've had some incredible conversations with some amazing people. I hope you've enjoyed those. Today, I am actually the guest on the podcast. I was a guest on my friend Anthony, his podcast a couple of years ago, the Sancho and Sancha Podcast, and so I thought I would load that up today and you would get to hear a little bit of my story. So some of you hopefully will be interested in that. But we're going to be taking a little bit of a break on the podcast because we're redoing the studio, and we're going to be coming back in December with some new episodes. So looking forward to that. Thank you for being with us, and we will see you soon.
Welcome to Inspire, the Angel Flores podcast, where you'll be inspired, equipped, and entertained.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess if we're just going to jump into this, what do you do for a living?
What do I do for a living? Yeah. So I'm a pastor. I pastor a church that we started 13 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And
Very nice.
when you tell people we started a church, that has all kinds of connotations. Like some people are like, I could never imagine starting something like a church. I didn't know people started churches. You know, I come from when I was a kid, I was a Catholic. I was raised Catholic.
Okay.
The national religion of Mexicans. And
Okay.
so, yeah.
Okay. So you're Hispanic?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mexican.
Very nice.
Yep. And so I was raised Catholic, and then my wife and I became Christians when we were 23.
Okay.
And so we started a church, and you know, my name is Angel, which is a very common name among Mexicanos and Hispanos, but
Mm-hmm.
we lived in South Carolina for a couple of years, and they thought I was a cult leader because my name was Angel,
Oh
and
my
I
God.
had this church. And so
That's funny.
this guy's like, he's going to marry all these women. And so, yeah, it was
Oh,
like,
geez.
all right, yeah. So, so anyways, we started a church 13 years ago called Mosaic here in Evans. And if you're, wherever you're joining us at, wherever you're joining us from, it is snowing like crazy right now. But yeah, so we're right here, just a few blocks from here. So yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I grew up in the neighborhood actually. So
Oh, you did?
I think I have a pretty good kind of feel for when you guys started building over there.
Oh yeah.
So-
Yeah. We've been in there 5 years, something like that.
All
Okay.
from scratch? Like you guys built it?
No, so
Okay.
we started our church September 16th, so Mexican Independence Day,
Oh,
where
nice.
God's going to use us to
There we go.
give spiritual independence to some
Uh-huh.
Mexicans. And we started, and we were in 3 different buildings before this one.
Okay.
The longest, we were in the Jerome building on the 3rd floor for 8 years, and it was a terrible location for a church because you had to take an elevator.
Oh.
So what really was awkward was funerals, because they would have to stand the casket up in the elevator.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, so people really had to want to
my
have their
gosh.
funeral. Like we would tell people, like, man, I don't know if this is a good idea. Like you're gonna have to stand grandma, you know, up, and I'll never forget. So we were on the 3rd floor. There was a time when the doors opened on the 2nd floor, and the body is, and the person's like, you know, I think I'll take the next one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a
Sure.
That is
coffin, yeah.
horrible.
Standing up. Yeah. So we were there for 8 years, and then we through a long kind of process, we ended up acquiring this building, and it was basically half finished. And so we moved in, and we signed a lease on it. And the plan was, it's a very good friend of mine. His church acquired it, so we said we'll rent it from you for 5 years, and if we can rent it, if we can fill it in 5 years, we'll buy it. And we filled it in 3 months. So it was, it was a crazy time of growth, and our team was like overwhelmed, but it was super fun, but it was also really overwhelming, you know? And so then we ended up buying the building about a year later, and then we did a bunch of renovations, and you guys have been there. So we finished out, we have about a 500 seat auditorium, and then we have another auditorium that seats about 300. And we have service on both ends of the building at the same time, which is kind of unique, but 2 languages.
Really?
Yeah. So,
Wow.
yeah. So we have our Spanish service at 9 in the West auditorium, an English service at 9:30 in the East auditorium, and then 11 o'clock English in the West auditorium. So,
Okay.
so I just walk back and forth and do all the speaking. Yeah.
Very
so,
nice. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
It's I've never heard of anybody else doing it, and there's probably good reason, but we haven't figured it out yet. So it's working for us. So
no, that's amazing. I mean, timing is everything. That area is perfect for it too. Honestly, I feel like that's the perfect little spot.
Yeah, it's been a good spot for us. Next door to Sam's Club is easy to describe. When people say, "Where's your church?" Next door to Sam, as opposed to like, we're on the 3rd floor of the Jerome Building downtown. Do you remember you used to get your license at the DMV, or do you remember? It's like it was insane. So so it's been good, and we've been pastors, my wife and I, for 25 years.
Oh wow!
So yeah,
how did you get into that?
So when I was 23, I had a good friend of mine, who was part of this team that would go around to different churches, and they would do like these skits set to music.
Okay.
And it was so we went, and I remember my son had just been born. He was like 3 months old, and we had a daughter who was about 3 years old at that time. And I was standing in the back of the church holding him because he was a newborn, right? And they were doing this skit of a guy in the Bible named Bartimaeus, and he's blind, and Jesus is walking by. It's a story in the Bible, and he's yelling, "I want to see, I want to see." And I'm standing in the back of the room, and at that time I was 23. I had when we got married, we were 17 years old, so we were crazy. We don't recommend it, but it worked for us. And so we got married, and I went to work into construction, and then I worked my way up in a cabinet shop. I worked my way up into sales. And so when I was 21, we had a house built, a brand new house. Like it was bananas. I was making more money than I had ever seen in my life.
Wow.
Had a nice house, nice car, all the stuff that you think, well, this is it, right? Like this is what we're supposed to do. You just climb the mountain.
Right.
So at that point, I was 23. I had 2 kids, beautiful wife, and I had all the stuff, and I was completely empty inside. And I was watching this guy saying, I want to see. And I was like, that is me. Like, I feel so blind and lost, even though I think I got to the mountain. Like I did the thing, right? I did the thing I set out to do. And now it's just going to be a life of, for me at least, I'll just make my pile of stuff bigger, and maybe we'll get a nicer house and whatever. And I just felt so empty and blind inside. So that night, my wife and I both committed our lives to Christ, became Christians. And 2 weeks later, I enrolled in Bible college because I'm just an all-in personality, I think. And I just knew this is what I was supposed to do. And the rest is kind of history. I've been on staff at a couple different churches, and then we started our own. And I haven't, for almost, it'll be 14 years this September. So
wow, that is amazing. I kind of want to touch base too. You did mention that you're Hispanic, and you got raised being in that Catholic world to begin with.
Right.
How did that transition kind of happen?
So when I was a kid, my dad, his name's David Flores. He is he's one of the most incredible accordion players on the planet. He is so good. Yeah. So he started playing when he was 4 years old.
Wow.
And he's 73 now. And he's phenomenal. Big name bands come through town and they look him up to go like jam with him, or, hey, will you look at my accordion? Or he's incredible. So he leads the worship in our Spanish service. He's the pastor of the Spanish. I just do the preaching. And so when I was in 3rd grade, he was dying. He was in the hospital. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with him, but he had gotten, I think he was like 110 pounds or so. He was really thin, and they told him, we don't know what's wrong with you, but we think you have a stomach tumor, right? Oh. So my dad had no church background at all. Wasn't zero anything. He said there was a crucifix hanging on the wall. And so he looks at it and he says, God, if you're real, heal me. And if you heal me, I'll serve you for the rest of my life. Okay, so that was my dad. Like he has this, right? So the next day, the doctor comes in and he says, we can't find anything wrong with you. And so my dad's like, okay. And he says, what I think you need, the doctor happened to be a Christian, is he says, I think you need to get a Bible study. So my dad's trying to tell him what happened, whatever. And my dad's like, I don't know where you get one of those. So he went to our local Catholic church in Fort Lupton.
Okay.
And he just started getting involved and like he started playing music and so that kind of took him off on that track. So that's so since we were there, he's like, hey, you're going to be an altar boy. And so man, that was I was not a great altar boy. Me and my brother, I don't know how many people have been like kicked out of being altar boys, but me and my brother were two of them. Like we just were terrible at it. And as a matter of fact, I used to wear my altar boy robe as a shirt when I met my wife, and she thought, "Oh my God, this guy's going to hell."
Oh my God!
I just thought it was a cool shirt. So anyway, so that was a little bit of my life, and so then when I got into high school, my parents started going to a Christian church, and I kind of checked out of it at that time until we were married and on our own, and
Wow, that is truly inspiring. I feel like I've actually heard a lot of stories that kind of relate to that, where they, they take that minute to kind of realize, like, which unfortunately sometimes it kind of leads to when they're in desperate needs, right?
Sure, yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's that moment of realization to kind of like really ask for help.
Yeah.
So that is truly inspiring.
So when I remember when I was in 9th grade, we had a school assembly at my school, and I was sitting there, and I don't remember anything the guy said, but I remember thinking, that's what I'm supposed to do with my life. I'm going to do that. And I had no concept of what that was or whatever. But when I became a Christian, I realized, I was like, that's what God was speaking to me in that moment. And I'm supposed to be a pastor. And so since then, it's crazy how God has satisfied that desire in my heart, because for a time after we started our church, I got hired by this company, monster.com, the job search website. I don't even know if they're still doing their thing, but
I remember that.
Yeah. So they used to fly me around the country, and I would go to high schools, and I was a high school motivational speaker. That's what they hired me to do. So I did, I don't know, about 100 high schools and traveled all over the country. And so that thing that I had in my heart from 9th grade, God was like, I have you pastoring, but I'm going to go ahead and let you do that too, just so you can experience what that was like. And it was fun. It was a fun time for a while, but the traveling got old. Like we love traveling, but I'd go by myself.
Yeah.
So it was always like, I'll never forget, I was in Montana and I saw the most incredible lake I've ever seen in my life. I was by myself. And so I was just like, I'm looking at it and I'm like, yep. All right, let's go. You know what I mean? It was just like phone cameras were really crappy. So it was just like, all right, I'll just try and remember this. So now Diane's able to go with me everywhere. Like we've traveled all over together. So 49 states.
Wow.
We just have Alaska.
Oh, geez.
So we'll hit that one in August, I think, of this year. We're going to go to Alaska.
Oh, dang, already planned.
Yeah, we already got it planned. So our church, when I've talked about, we've hit 49 states forever, and I always joke around, like, does anybody know anyone in Alaska or whatever? So last year we hit 25 years as pastors, and our church bought us. They're like sending us to Alaska, so like I could stop making that joke. But
that is awesome.
They're like, it's not funny anymore.
Yeah, I know. Like, get some new material, man. Yeah, all right, sorry. Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of a little nutshell of our story and our lives. We have 3 kids. They're all grown. Yeah. And so our youngest just got married in December. We have 2 grandbabies. Oh. If anyone is listening and your kids are driving you crazy and you're just don't kill them, because better kids are coming. All right. Grandkids are amazing. They're awesome. Our boys are 1 and 2 years old. So they're my heart. They're everything. So
Isn't that the problem though? I feel like everybody. Congratulations. Yeah.
I didn't have anything to do with that, but thank you.
Isn't that the problem though? Everybody says that it gets better.
It does, man. It does. When my kids were little, I was stressed out. If they spilled something on the carpet or whatever, I'd get like, And now with my grandkids, I'm just like, I don't care, but do whatever you want. It's just a rug. It's whatever. Yeah. So.
And I think that's funny though, because usually the kids get sensitive about them. They're like, oh, how come you're a lot nicer to, my kid versus me when I was young, So I think that's pretty funny.
I'm like, I am. But you have better perspective as you get older. Even older parents have better perspective. You know what I mean? About what really matters, what's really important. Who cares about a stained couch or in the grand scheme of things? I'm trying to raise a good person here. Yeah. Create a good human being. And so that's more important than, I don't know, scratch on the car or whatever.
Right.
That's tough though, man. that's the world that we live in.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes it hard, you know? Is there something that, like, what is it for you that makes you realize that?
That makes me have perspective?
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm 40, I'm 48. I'll be 49 next week. I only have, so check this out. This was funny. So I heard about this website where you could get on and you could punch in, like, here's my family history. Here's how old I am. Here's how much I weigh. Here's how much red meat I eat every week. Here's how often I exercise. Like it did this big, like, you know, what's your family history in terms of like heart disease and how did your grandparents die? And it asks you like all these questions. And then based on that, it says, this is how long we think you're going to live. Okay. Right. So it actually gave me a date, which was kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I see.
I have it in my phone. I'd have to find it, but I'm supposed to live to be 92. Okay?
Oh, wow.
Who knows, right? And so I put that date in my phone. Like, here's the date I'm supposed to die. And it's kind of a weird thing to do,
weird.
right? It's kind of morbid. Like you look at it and you're like, wow, that's kind of weird. But it also gave me...
You just see in your anniversary every year.
Oh,
It's like,
Jesus.
what is that dot for? Oh, huh. Yeah.
No, it doesn't matter, right? But it also, what was interesting, a couple of things that really jumped out to me. One was I have recurring appointments in my phone, like everybody does, right? Like there's different things that are just set up and they go into infinity. Like I have this standing, whatever, right? We have this prayer meeting at our church. We have prayer the first Saturday of every month. And so I'm supposed to die on a Friday. Okay.
Oh, geez.
So I looked and I was like, well, somebody else is going to have to handle prayer that next day because I'm going to be dead, right? And it was a weird feeling because I was like, that's kind of weird. Well, I better live my life so that I set up things and structures and systems. So I hand stuff off to people because the church thing is really important to me. So I want to make sure it lives past me. So it made me think things differently. It can't just be me. I've got to develop people. And the other thing that happened was I put it on the wrong year.
Oh.
So then a little bit later I realized it. So I had to remove a year. Okay.
Oh, no.
And that was a weird feeling too, because I was like, man, so it helped me think about, I only have so many days left on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
So how am I going to spend them? Like none of us is getting out of here alive, right? We're all, we've all got a finite time. So I'm more deliberate about what I say yes to and what I say no to. And I like to think I'm more in the moment because of, man, we only have so much time, right? So I'm here with my friend Anthony and we're on this awesome podcast in this beautiful studio. Just met 2 new friends and like life's good. So, but I'm going to try and have that mentality all the time. Because what's the alternative? Be stressed out all the time? I'm still going to die. I'll probably die sooner.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what
I
drives me in that way.
That's huge though. I mean, I feel like it definitely takes that to kind of realize that life can sometimes be short.
Right. Yeah.
And you just got to kind of live in the moment. Don't really stress so much about, whatever things are not so important at that moment, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
So that's huge.
So I went to I don't know if Dan's going to want me to tell this story. I did a funeral at a crematorium and I got there early. And so I asked the funeral guy, because I do a lot of funerals, and I said, hey man, can I see the oven? Because I've never seen one before, like in real life. And he's like, sure. So he takes me back there. As soon as we walked back there, it was like, you felt the heat.
Oh.
And I was like, dude, is there a person is this on?
Oh no.
And he goes, yeah, it's on. It's on right now. And I was like, my knees got kind of weak. I was like, oh. So he says he told me all about the process and I watched all this thing happen, whatever. And he kind of walked me through the steps. There were some clients lined up like they were next, right?
Oh man.
So you just call them clients?
Well, I don't know what you call them.
Prospects.
Customers.
Prospects, yeah.
There are a couple prospects.
Oh, man.
A couple, yeah. They were on the bench waiting to get in the game. Yeah.
A couple on the bench. That's too much.
So anyway, he's showing me all this stuff and he told me it gets up to 1,500 degrees. And I was like, okay, I have no clue how hot that is.
Woo.
And he says, so I look at this big digital thing and it says 800 degrees. And I was like, oh my gosh, that still sounds really hot. And I told him, I said, if that door opened, would we catch on fire? Like, I have no concept of how hot that is, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, no, man, not at all. And he pushed 2 buttons faster than I could react. And it opened and there was a person.
Oh
no.
my God.
This happened like less than a month ago. I don't know. So then my knees really got weak, right? And I was like, oh my God, that's a human being right there. Like, right?
Jeez.
But it also, again, to that same point, it also reminded me, like someday that's going to be me. Like
Yeah.
we're all going to, and it'll probably definitely be me because my family's cheap. And so they don't want to spend the money on
Uh-oh.
So they're going to go the cheapest route, which is fine, right? But we only get so many days, man. Let's make them count. Let's do something
Oh man.
like significant and legit, and let's go out swinging. Even if we fail,
Right.
let's fail big. Let's go for it. And that was part of the thinking behind starting our own church was, I felt like God called me to do it. I felt like he told me to do it. But I also had this part in my heart of, let's find out, which is why I love jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Let's find out. Like, am I a coward? Let's find out. Are you better than me? Are you strong? Let's find out. There's one way. There's a proving ground, right? The mat. Like, I was joking with Danny the other day because he mentioned something about promotions. And I said, okay, Danny, if you want to just go and give me my brown belt, that's fine. Like, so in jiu-jitsu, those of you that are listening, you might not know, it goes white belt, blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, black belt. Takes 10 to 12 years to get all the way to the top. It's one of the hardest achievements in martial arts. So Anthony and I are both, we're both 2-stripe blue belts.
I'm 3 actually.
Oh,
My bad.
anyway.
Oh, jeez.
3
Awkward.
stripes.
Wow. What a flex. So
My bad, bro. My bad.
that's okay.
I only have 2 on there right now. 1 fell off, so we can say.
Okay. So I just made a joke like, hey, Danny, we can skip to brown if you want, whatever. And he says, well, there's nothing stopping you from putting on a brown belt, walking in here. And I was like, yeah, but the mat is the ultimate proving ground. Like, you can't fake it, right? You walk in, someone walks in and they talk a big game. We're about to find out.
The
right?
mat doesn't lie.
It doesn't lie. Yeah. And so in that same way, it's like, if we're let's find out what we're made of. Let's do something big and swing big. And if we fail, we're gonna be better off because now we know what doesn't work, but we're gonna figure out what does. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I approach it.
And you know what? I feel like that's pretty interesting that you say that because I feel like a lot of people usually have a misconception of, anybody being either a priest or a pastor, and they think that they are secluded, they don't do anything, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's interesting for you to say that you still have a regular life, and you still go out and try to do something that you like to do, whether it's jiu-jitsu or, whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, I'm probably transparent to a fault, to be honest, but I would rather have the folks in my church know that, hey, my pastor, he's a regular guy and he struggles too. And he has doubts too. And so it's okay if I do, because I don't have to live up to some imaginary line that's completely unachievable. Right. Like I'd rather live among my people and like, let's just do life together and we'll figure it out and navigate it on the way.
I love that.
Than to live in some ivory tower where I'm untouchable and unapproachable, or right. I have this green room that nobody, you know what I mean? Like I just, nothing against that stuff, man. It's just not me. I just would rather be chopping it up with people and living life. So
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, definitely being transparent is huge, Yeah.
It makes it easy, man. It's easy to be around you. I mean, you seem like just a normal dude, I mean,
I'm not gonna lie. I was actually a little bit nervous. Anthony was telling me, he's like, yes, I'm like, do I need to what do I need to do? Like, I don't know.
Get some candles.
I'm like, do I need to go confess first? I'm like, why are you sweating? This is like our 9th podcast.
What if I walked in? I know what you did.
I know. I'm like, I'm sorry.
Starts crying. I'm like, all right, man, we need to reschedule this.
Yeah, I don't want anyone confessing their stuff. Like, I'm just like, you know what, man? I've had people confess murders to me. Like I had a guy confess a murder to me.
Oh my
And I'm like,
gosh.
I'm not a priest, man. Like I'm going to just teach you to talk to Jesus, and then you don't have to, tell me all your stuff. And
That's when you're just like,
yeah, okay.
So then,
Yeah.
so then
I'm
I
like-
guess that's kind of like the difference between, I guess, being a priest and a pastor. I mean, I
Yeah.
guess I just don't know
So there's
necessarily.
So the Catholic Church has a little bit of a different belief structure, theology about the role of the priest versus the Christian church and the role of the pastor. And so, yeah, I don't take, sometimes people need to get stuff off their chest and I got to tell somebody, cool. Yeah, you could tell me. Yeah. But I'm a mandatory reporter. Like if a child's being hurt or something, the kid that told me about the murder, I said, bro, I can't just, and so he confessed it the next day. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm off the hook there. But yeah, it's just a little bit different structure. Yeah. So
because you
shout out
don't
to my
really
Catholic
want to,
friends.
right? You don't really want to be like a therapist.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not a trained counselor. And so I tell people that right away, like I'm down to like, yeah, we can meet. And I'll usually meet with a family a couple times or a person or whatever. And then if you need more than that, then I'm going to refer you to a professional counselor. And our church actually has a whole system set up for that. So, because I'm not a licensed counselor or therapist. So.
Okay. Yeah, I really like that. So then basically it's kind of you just, I don't know how to say it in English, but dando la palabra de Dios kind of
Yes,
in a
yeah.
way. Okay.
Yeah. My job is, I'm going to point people to Jesus. That's my job. And I'm going to, with my people, I'm going to teach you how to read your Bible so that you understand it, because that's intimidating sometimes. I'm going to teach you how to talk to God and how to hear his voice. And then I'm going to try and help you figure out your purpose in life. Why were you born? Everybody needs to know that.
Yes.
You'll never have peace in your life until you figure that out. And then I'm going to kind of get out of the way and let God and you do your thing. And, of course, I'm going to still continue to guide the ship, but that's really my job. Is I'm going to just try and help you get connected to the Lord. And then I'm going to get out of the way.
I think that's
Nice.
really interesting. How do you, is there like a pad or like steps that you do, or what do you do specifically to try to get somebody to find out what their purpose is?
So the three big questions in life. So here we go. We'll get deep now. Ready? So where did I come from? Why am I here? What's going to happen when I die? I submit that no one will have peace until they come to some kind of, I don't know, till you have peace with those three questions. Till you've answered those in your own way, in your own heart. However, we've got to deal with that, because those are, where do we come from? Like, that's huge, right? Are we just shaved apes? Like, are we just intelligent shaved apes evolved from nothing? That seems really unlikely to me. But if that's what somebody grabs onto, okay, well, at least you'll have peace about it, right? Why am I here? So if God created me, I say, okay, God created me, then he created me with a purpose, right? So what we do at our church is we do, everybody that comes through our system, our process, it's called our Discover class. We give them a DISC test. So we kind of figure out their personality. And then we give them a spiritual gifts test. And because we believe that every person was put on this planet to make an eternal difference in the lives of other people. I really believe that. And I've given my life to helping people figure out what God has placed in them and how to realize it, right? And so with that in mind, that's how we go about it. So I'm not necessarily trying to help people figure out their career. I'm trying to help them figure out how they make an eternal difference in the lives of other people. Sometimes that leads to the career piece. It did for me. Sometimes it doesn't. But either way, I think you can do both. You can have, I don't think the career piece is as important as people make it out to be, because there's so much else that you can do outside of that.
Right.
But anyway, and then the whole, where am I going, where I die? I think Jesus answers all three of those questions for us. But until you have those things figured out, there'll be a restlessness in your soul. And yeah, so.
Yes, I definitely love that. And I feel like I've actually had that perspective before as well too, which, to be honest, I feel like actually that's probably one of the reasons that we did the podcast, because we know that is translating to people that can potentially help them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
And that's exactly how I read the podcast. I've listened to most of the episodes.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that's how I read it. Yeah, definitely. You guys are helping your listeners. You're guiding them down this path. And we're going to meet with a few mentors, gurus, whatever, and they're going to help speak into that restlessness of what am I supposed to do?
mm-hmm.
I love it. Yeah.
Well,
Absolutely.
there really is something about it takes a village. You
Right.
know, I really don't think there's anything else it's a better way to put that. I mean,
Right.
when we started this podcast, we started putting this together, and I said this before. There was a couple people in both of our minds that I feel like came up right away, where it was kind of like, you know what, like here's a couple people that I feel like we need to talk to, and. Honestly, when this idea came up, it was just because we were sitting in the car all the time, like at our house. It was not going inside and talking for like an hour.
That's good.
Or we pull up to the gym and we realize that we've been in the parking lot for an hour and a half. And we're like, you know what? I'm hungry now.
Let's go eat.
Let's go get some food.
We're like, we went to the gym.
But we were
go.
basically just sitting in the
Right.
car, just trying to figure out, like just trying to find some answers.
Yeah.
To some things that we just couldn't figure out. Or it's just like, well, what do you think about this? Or like, well, do you think it's like this if you're in this position? Or like, do you think what do you think this guy would think? And so we came up with the idea of starting the podcast, and I've said it before, but I feel like you are one of the people that kind of came up in the back of my mind, like right away. Is like, dude, like we need to get him on there. Cause I feel like you have like an insane amount of life experiences. There's something about it. Like there's some people.
Insane.
There's some people out there that really live like, I feel like 100 different lives, and you pick it up on the different stories, or just the things that, like the way you carry yourself, or the things that you talk about when you come around.
That's funny you say that, because I tell my wife a lot, like if I could live another life, here's what I would do. If I could live another life, here's what I would do. But then when I look, I feel like God has let me do all that. Like one of my lives, I would love to be a carpenter. I love building stuff. I was a carpenter. I do cabinet making and build furniture. Well, I still get to do that. Like I do it even in this job, right? And there's another job. I'd love to be a motivational speaker. Well, God let me do that. And I got to speak at all these places and companies. And so I really think, man, when you start chasing what you feel God has put in your heart, like what you guys are doing here, so many other things start happening. And, you know, I've heard people call it the secret, right? Where you call out to the universe and that positive energy comes and all that. I don't know about that, but I do know that I have a relationship with the Holy Spirit. And when I talk to him, the same thing happens. Yeah. And so there is some truth to that, I think. But I also think that you have to have some kind of plan, right? You can't just aimlessly, you could. I mean, who knows, right? Who am I? What do I know? But so when I first, I was probably 20 before I even became a Christian. I read this book called Self-Made in America. I don't know if it's even in print anymore.
Okay.
And it's this guy named John McCormick. And he, so here's this quick story. He was a police officer in New York City, and him and his brother-in-law rented a lot and got some Christmas trees. And they said, we're going to have a Christmas tree lot and we'll split the cash. So that's what they did. Well, so his brother-in-law went out and bought like a car, you know what I mean? He just went and blew his money. John started investing in the stock market, and he figured out really quick that he was successful, right? So he says his life took off. He's in limos, like all this. He's like living this fat life. Then everything went upside down, and now he's $250,000 in debt. Okay. So it went like, this is awesome. He's thinking of killing himself. So he goes to the beach, and he's going to walk into the ocean and drown himself. All right. It's a true story.
Wow.
He meets this old guy at the beach. They start talking. For 9 weeks, he comes back every day. He's unemployed, doesn't have anything to do. He's $250,000 in debt. And for 9 weeks, this guy mentors him. Turns out the guy was a multimillionaire, and his wife was sick, so they were staying at the beach. So he just mentors him. And the advice he gave John that always stuck with me is he says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I really believe that, right? When you're ready, listen, if God showed you the whole road, it would terrify you. It would be overwhelming. If God would have showed me Mosaic the day we started it, it would have freaked me out. So we just see the next step. So I always pray, God, just show me the next step to take. I don't need to see the whole road. I'll jack it up. Just show me the next step. Show me the next step. So anyway, and he tells John, he says, find 3 mentors, 3 people that are doing what you want to do. And then ask them if they'll help you. And so what he does is he goes to work for 3 immigrants. And the reason he chooses immigrants is because this mentor told him, if you choose 3 Ivy League graduates, you're going to feel intimidated by them. And they probably have family connections, and they probably have, you know what I mean? They're in a different place than you. So you can't relate to that, right? You can't change that. But if you choose 3 immigrants, they had to come here, don't even know the language, and they had to do it all. And he goes, you're actually a step ahead of them because you speak English. It's like, wow, that makes sense. So what I did early on when we started our church is I started asking guys who were ahead of us, hey, could I buy you a cup of coffee? Like, I know I'm a little guy and you're a big guy. Could I just have like 45 minutes? I have some questions. I never, ever have heard no. And so one time I drove to Parker for like a 40-minute meeting just to ask this guy some questions. One time I went to Idaho to speak at a school, and I reached out to this guy who has a massive church, 5,000 people. And I said, hey, Could I meet with you? And he's like, yeah, no problem. So we sat, all he had was 15 minutes, sat down. I asked him my question. He answered it. I still think about what he told me. You know what I mean? Like but there are people that God will put in your path so that, okay, I want to go from here to here, but I don't know how. I don't have the family connections. I don't have the whatever.
Yep.
Okay, well, but God's plan is for you to get from here to here. So he's going to make up the difference. You don't need connections, man. You don't need a rich family. You don't need any of that. If you got God, that's all you need. And so I've experienced that to be true over and over in my life. Even now, I still have mentors, guys that I'll call them and ask them. You know, our church has gotten bigger now. So now I'm chasing after guys that are a little bigger because I'm always trying to, stay a little ahead of where we're at. Still haven't ever heard no.
Wow.
So, and then, of course, the thing that I've experienced God does is he then gives me an opportunity
Pass
to be
that.
yes. And so me and a friend of mine started a pastor's network. There's about 50 churches in it. They're from all over the country. And every Wednesday we do like a mentoring call, collaboration call there's usually about 25 guys on the call. And that's all we're doing is,
wow,
I'm just paying back what they did for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just took a group of 10 pastors on a retreat. I was a part of this group that took these guys on a retreat, and that was what we did. And it's just, I think because I've been so hungry, I've been that young lion. Now I've got a few scars and I've done a few things. So now I'm in a position to hand it back. And it's very satisfying.
And that's all that we're asking for, honestly, man. 'Cause, I mean, like I said, we're just looking for some answers, you know?
And I think that's why books is such a huge thing as well, too. Because sometimes people, I guess in other words, that's actually a huge thing to bring up is to not be afraid to ask people, right?
Yes.
But I feel like that's why a lot of people kind of deter over to reading books to try to still get that knowledge in to the answers to the answers to their questions. You know what I mean? So I love that. I do.
Are you an avid reader?
I don't sit down and read a lot.
Okay.
But we started doing Audible about 3 years ago. And last year I did 36. So
36 books?
Yeah. So about 3 books a month.
Okay.
It's just when I'm driving around in my car.
Yeah.
Like to get from my house to the farm, the gym we go to, it's about a 14, 15 minute drive. So I can get about a half hour of a book just going to, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So,
right.
Yeah, that's what I do with my job. Everywhere that I'm driving,
You're just listening.
Listen to audio. Yeah. Podcast kind of gets old. Music gets old really fast, you know?
Yeah.
So I try to rotate between the 3.
Yeah.
But it's weird how you mentioned every single thing because, I never bring my book. And for the first
What
time,
book are you reading?
The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari.
Never heard of it.
And
but
it's literally every single thing that you're talking about.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah,
it's smart.
It's so weird.
Just kidding.
No. No, but
okay.
My wife, she's going to be like,
so
Angel,
crazy.
you're doing so good.
Yeah, he's not nervous.
No, but really, it's so crazy because right now you were just mentioning about finding your purpose, not just a career. And this book is like literally what it's explaining right now. So I was like, oh my gosh, how crazy.
Yeah.
Like what a coincidence.
The principles are timeless, and everything I'm saying you can find in the Bible.
Yeah.
I haven't innovated anything, right? It's just a matter of applying that stuff in everyday life. And that's exactly what they're doing. Yeah. That's interesting. I'm going to find that and I'm going to read it.
And it's actually the author of The Alchemist.
Yeah. We love that.
Coelho.
Yeah.
Paulo Coelho.
Yeah. We love that book. I just kept seeing it. I had no idea what it was about. And audiobook, and it was good.
It's so good. Yeah. Definitely.
Do you feel like it's cheating to do audiobook? Audible?
No, because
I always feel weird.
If I didn't, I wouldn't do it.
Okay.
And so it's like,
I always want to just be like, no, because I know exactly what they're talking about in the book. I got the whole book down.
Yeah. No, it's not cheating.
I'll take a test on it right now.
Yeah. Well, one thing I've learned on the road of my life is people who are successful, they make the environment work for them. People who are not used to that, like I come in, right? Mexican, very humble. I'm just happy to be here. I don't want to ruffle any feathers. And that's kind of cultural for us historically, right? Especially if we come from undocumented family, right? We're like, hey, just keep your head down. We're just happy to be here. Yeah. Don't say anything. It's fine.
Right.
But at some point, people who are successful change their environments and make it work for them. And so that's all that is you're just saying, look, I'm going to get this in a different way and I'm going to make it work for me. So I don't think it's cheating.
And I feel like that's what's crazy too, because I feel like this topic is probably the most talked about, which is religion, the law of attraction, and I guess science, but I mean, law of attraction is kind of, I guess, in that range. But those two, I feel like still tangle with each other because you're still believing, you're still, it's
faith.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And whatever, again, those three questions, right? Where did I come from? If you believe in the law of attraction, right? There's still someone pushing things towards you, right? So it still requires the same amount of faith. Now, if you say, well, I feel like we evolved, I have people in my church that don't believe everything the Bible says. That's okay. I'm glad you're here. Let's figure it out together. Let's sit down, chop it up. Let's try and wrestle with this and see if we can figure it out. But yeah, both of them require faith. And
yeah.
Have you ever been to Jerusalem? Have you ever been to Jerusalem?
No, I haven't. We've talked about it a few times, but we went to Italy for our 25th anniversary.
Oh, nice.
A few years ago. We went to Italy, Spain, France. Accidentally went through Switzerland.
What?
Yeah, it was so crazy, man. So a friend of ours gave us some buddy passes so we could do this, right? Which was amazing. So we get over there and it's time to come home and you fly like standby. So if the plane's not full, then you can come home. But if it's full, you have to wait for the next one. So we showed up for our flight and we're in Venice, Italy. And they said, the plane's full. You have to come back for the next. Okay, when's the next one? It's this afternoon. Okay. But that one looks really full. And so you're going to have to maybe come back tomorrow. And I was like, bro, like we can't just, like, at the end of your vacation, you're broke and you just want to get home
I'm ready to go.
Right? Any more clean clothes. Like it was just like, we're done. And so they said, the guy, he was super cool. He says, honestly, you're trying to fly out of one of the busiest airports in Europe. In the summer, Venice. I never thought about that. So he says, I've seen people here a week.
Oh, no.
Just trying to do this. And he goes, you could either go to Berlin, Germany or Zurich, Switzerland, and you can probably get home. And I'm like, that sounds like a million miles away, because we're here, right? So we ended up taking a 5-hour train ride through the Swiss Alps. It was incredible to get our flight home. So that's why I say we kind of accidentally went through Switzerland. But
that's amazing.
But yeah, we've never been to Jerusalem. I'd like to go at some point. Yeah, I want to go, but just haven't done it.
Yeah.
Trying to get the 50 states knocked out.
Yeah. Right. Got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I recently experienced that. My flight got canceled twice because of the snow the last time, and it really came down here.
Yes, yeah.
So we had a layover in Seattle.
That's right. You were in California.
Yeah, we went from Cali.
Yeah,
we were supposed to fly back, but they kept canceling because of the snow.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
So we ended up finally getting a flight back, but they gave us a layover in Seattle. So we flew from Los Angeles to Seattle, and then from Seattle to Denver.
Oh,
it was kind of stupid, but we got to see Seattle, which was kind of cool. So it was
how long were you there?
A little bit of a cherry on top. Enough for, I think our layover was 3 hours. So it was enough for, we landed, we caught an Uber to.
So you guys left the airport?
Yeah.
Man,
as soon as we got there, we got an Uber and went to the Space Needle.
Okay.
Hopped on some electric scooters, drove around to where the port was, found a place to eat, got another Uber back to the airport, and then left. It was like perfect timing.
That's cool though. At least you got to see it. Yeah,
that's
not
what
just
I said.
fly
so,
through.
yeah, we're on the scooters. Henry had like a soft gym bag. You could just shoulder it. I had a luggage, like a rolling suitcase, and I'm on the scooter. So I just like threw it up on the handlebar. Like it was pretty bad. It was super sketchy, but
it's a good memory though.
It was cool. Yeah. It's hard to complain about that trip. That whole trip was wild, but yeah, no, I want to bring it back a little bit. I just want to talk a little bit more about you starting the church. I think you brought it up right when we first started, and that's spot on. I think it's really unique. I've never heard of anybody starting a church before. Is that hard? Is that a process or?
I mean, yeah, it was, so here was our strategy that we used. Cause how do you start a church? Right?
Yeah.
Right.
So we took out an ad in the Greeley Tribune for one day, and we had a church MySpace. Okay. And that was it.
MySpace,
wow.
Back in MySpace days, yeah. And that was it. And we invited everyone we knew, and we had about, I think it was 62 people show up. We rented a hotel ballroom downtown, and then we had some well-wishers come and just try and and then so we really started with about 40 people. So that was kind of how it started.
Wow.
And then we just slowly started growing a little at a time. Then we got to 100, and then it was 300, and we just.
And this whole time you were renting like a little ballroom, basically.
So we only did that for 1 week.
Oh, gotcha.
And then a church heard about us and said they wanted to share space with us, and that only lasted a month because they got tired of us. And then,
oh my God,
we ended up at another church that only met on Tuesday and Friday nights, and we rented their space for a year. Then we ended up downtown on the 3rd floor of the Jerome building. Now it's really nice. There's an Aunt Helen's and all that coffee, and they fixed it up. But when we were there, it was not nice. I remember a cleaning lady found a man naked in the stairwell one day. It was super sketchy. Yeah. So, but yeah. Anyway, so we were there for 8 years, and then we ended up in this building. Yeah. So
how'd you come up with mosaic?
Yeah.
So, a mosaic is, if you look at a piece of mosaic artwork, it's made of broken pieces of glass or tile, right? It's usually ceramic tile.
Yep.
And each of those pieces individually, you would never say, this is beautiful, right? It's just a broken piece of glass. But if you have a master, an artist, and he arranges them all together and cements them together, now you have something beautiful, and it's a piece of art. And so we thought, what if we asked God to arrange a bunch of broken people, me being the first one, I'm not any better than anybody else, right? I'm still in need of God's grace and love too. And what if he arranged them all and cemented us in a relationship? I think it could be something really beautiful. And so that's how we got the name Mosaic. So
that is awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
We get questions about it a lot. In the Old Testament, Moses, he presents what's called the Mosaic Law. And so I've had people ask me so do you guys study Moses? I'm like, no, man, I never even thought about that. No, it's just, yeah. That was how we came up with it. And we really were hoping that we would be a kind of a gathering of people from different ages, different, blue collar, white collar, different, of course. It's weird because I never really thought about the ethnicity thing, although Mosaic really implies that. But as we started growing, our church is really diverse, and it just became that. And I think maybe because we said it was going to be that with the name, God really kind of did his own thing there. But yeah, our church is very diverse, represents our city well, I think. And we've got everything from newborns all the way to senior citizens.
That's the perfect way to describe it. That's exactly how I felt when we went. You know, I thought it's different than a lot of churches for sure.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely very comfortable when you're in there. So
yeah, we try to make it, and not everybody will understand this, but we try to make it not weird.
Yeah.
Because sometimes church can be intimidating and overwhelming. And your first time, you're like, I don't even know where I'm supposed to go and what am I supposed to do? And so we don't want to, we just want to make it really easy for people to understand. And so that's what it's hard simple is hard because you always have to strip things away and things that are not bad, but they're just extra. And so in order to maintain anything with good simplicity, it takes work, but that's our goal. Simple.
And I love that you bring that because up because when Anthony and I actually went to your guys' church, I'm actually a Catholic. That's all I know. That's how I got raised. I'm Mexican, you know what I mean? So when he told me that, like, hey, let's go over to this church to go check it out. Yeah, I was a little bit intimidated because, going into a whole different, I don't even know how to say it, religion maybe?
Yeah, and just a church environment.
Yeah, it is intimidating, you don't know how, everything's completely different,
Right.
So, but that's one thing I definitely noticed was it was very welcoming. And I was like, wow, I actually really like this.
That's
like,
cool, yeah.
Like, with the music and
I'm glad to
everything
hear
too.
that.
So,
yeah. I noticed you guys haven't been back. We could probably talk about that.
Oh my gosh. Dude.
Now we got to go confess. No.
Definitely, we're cutting that out of the podcast.
My mom's going to listen.
I know, right?
Have you been every Sunday, Anthony?
Editing the podcast. That's so funny. No, honestly, man, it took me a long time to kind of put the connections together. I mean, a couple of years ago when I met you at the farm, like, just driving around town, I see the sticker for you guys' church everywhere. And I just never knew what it was for.
Right.
And
we purposely don't put the name on it.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Because then you'll ask.
Yeah.
Hey, what is that?
Yeah.
And then
I
it's
see
an
it
opportunity
everywhere.
for people to start. Yeah. So if you're joining us online, you're not from this area, our logo is a pretty distinctive mosaic cross. It's a cross made up of a bunch of different pieces. And so, when we hand them out at the church free all the time. People put them on their cars, and I see them.
Okay, that makes sense.
I got cut off by a lady one time driving
with one
cross.
You're just like, hey man, pull over at the light.
I know what we're talking about on Sunday. Anyway,
lady with the gray Sentra, raise your hand. I recognize you.
It was a tan Hyundai, but yep.
Oh, jeez, dang. Did affect you a little bit then, huh?
Still remember.
No, I just remember being at the farm and obviously seeing those stickers everywhere. And then I saw you with the tattoo. And I was like, what the hell? I was like, oh, that's Angel. That's right. They're like, oh, that's the dude that they keep calling the pastor of disaster. I'm like, oh, okay. I already like this guy. Who the hell? Let me go talk to this guy. So I thought that was super interesting. So where did that come from? Yeah. Do you know how that started?
It was my gamer tag on Xbox. And one day...
that's pretty epic, actually. So you came up with this.
A friend of mine came up with it like 20 years ago.
Okay.
And we joked about it, and then I ended up using it as my gamer tag. And then one day, Carlos Rubio, who goes to the farm, he's a brown belt, he was asking, we were talking about gaming. And he's like,
what's your gamer tag, bro?
Exactly. What's your gamer tag? And so I told him, and it just stuck. Like, Danny was like, what? That's so awesome.
Yeah.
That is a
cool
cool
never
name.
known this? And then it just stuck. Yeah. So Pastor of Disaster.
Because I think it's on a piece of tape in the locker room.
It's on I put it on my locker because I knew nobody would know Angel.
Yeah.
But I thought if I put Pastor of Disaster, everybody will know who that is. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like, who the hell is that guy? That sounds awesome.
Yeah. I've had people ask me that, like I was at Safeway one day and I happened to be wearing my farm hoodie. And so this guy goes, hey, cool hoodie. And I was, oh, thanks. And then I thought, you must train. Right?
Yeah.
So I said, do you train? He goes, yeah, I just started coming to the farm, blah, blah, blah. I said, oh, cool. My name's Angel. And he goes, are you the pastor of disaster?
Oh, what?
And I was like, now I know what it feels like to be famous.
Yeah. That's when you just start flexing a little bit. Like, yeah.
Would you like an autograph?
Heard my name.
Exactly. Diane just rolls her eyes.
That is pretty strange. I mean, the whole jiu-jitsu thing is just kind of weird. There's a lot of times I'm driving to class and I just feel like, I'm like, what am I doing?
What am I doing? I'm going to go simulate murder
so
with
weird.
my friends. Yeah.
It is a strange thing because I heard somebody, I don't remember if it was Eddie Bravo explaining it or somebody was explaining it, and they're like, it's kind of a strange thing when you're going to practice an art where you're basically putting yourself in a simulated situation where you can basically take your friend's life, and it's up to you to just be like, okay, let's do this again. It's kind of a weird thing.
It is, man. It is. So the way I got into jiu-jitsu was, it was a kind of a bucket list thing. Like I didn't wrestle in high school. I wrestled when I was 10. Mm-hmm. And, I did one season. There were only 2 kids on the team. We were both fat. Me and my best friends, we always had to wrestle each other at tournaments. So it just was a terrible experience. They used to call us the Burrito Brothers, the Taco Twins.
No.
Always first and second place.
Exactly, man. So I hated wrestling, right? Yeah. So then when about 4 years ago, it's a little over 4 years ago now, sometimes I'll choose a word for the year. Like, this is going to kind of be my theme for the year. And I asked God, give me a word. And the word I felt like he gave me was press. I'm going to press, in different areas of my life. And one of them, I was like, well, I loved UFC. A good friend of mine is a jiu-jitsu now. He's a purple belt. So if I'm ever going to do anything like that, at that time, I think I was 44. Like, I'm not getting any younger. This is the youngest I'm ever going to be. So let's go. So I showed up at the farm. It was in January. And I told Danny, is it crazy of me to think I could compete in a tournament I think it was in April. And he's like, no, man, not at all. Just let's do it.
It's whatever you want to do, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's how he is. And so I trained and I competed and I just got hooked on it. And I love the human chess aspect of, and Anthony, probably no one will ever know this, but he is a killer. Like, this guy is a killer. And so
I'm like, oh, trust me, I know.
I love playing chess with you, because we're playing chess with our bodies.
Yeah.
And so, if I do this, you do this. And so it's so cerebral. That's what I love about it.
That's like the best and the worst way to try to explain it is playing chess with your bodies, because chess pieces only move one direction.
That's true. Yeah.
Your body is like
up, down.
Just a weird thing of movement.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. So there's nothing like it. There's no other. And, some people come in and they're just like, this is stupid. Like, what are you doing?
It's definitely not for everybody. Yeah. You can tell. You see it.
Yeah. Or the meatheads that come in and they're like, well, this is dumb because of all these rules. And okay, man, whatever.
It's like, okay, cool.
Yeah, this isn't probably for you, but yeah, I love it. And it's really...
it's a strange addiction.
Yes, it's therapeutic for me.
Yeah.
When I go in there, I have... Like everybody else, right? You have a lot of pressure in life, but when you're on the mat, there's you can't think about anything else. But I have this giant man-sized Rubik's Cube in front of me that I got to solve, or he's gonna choke me. I'm not thinking about anything else. Mm-hmm. So there's a serenity to it that's hard to explain if you haven't experienced it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, love it.
Yeah, if you've never been in the gym, get in there. It's not for everybody, for sure. But yeah, if you're going to go anywhere, go to the freaking farm.
Yes. Come to the
farm. If you're in northern Colorado, for sure. Come say hi.
Yes.
But I don't really want to talk jiu-jitsu too much. I feel like we get too much on the jiu-jitsu train here.
I know, almost like every podcast, every episode.
I'm sorry. It's such a big part of my life.
Did you talk to Emerson about it?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Him too, man. He's a big fella.
Yeah, he's a big guy.
And if you're always on the mat, like, it took me a couple of weeks to realize how big he actually is. Because you always see him on the mat.
What is he, 6'?
He's like 6'2", 6'3".
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe like 240.
Yeah, he's a
big Jesus big Christ. Yeah. This guy's giant. But if he's always on the mat or sitting down or on his knees, he looks like the average sized person. Mm-hmm. And I saw him in the locker room changing. That sounds really inappropriate. And he was just towering over me. Yeah. I was like, oh my God, man.
No wonder you're such a
realize. Yeah. So it's unique, man. Jiu-jitsu's introduced me to a lot of people. So.
Yeah, it is a interesting melting pot of personalities too.
Everybody's different.
Yeah,
literally all walks of the world.
Jeremy Adler, who's a PhD.
Yeah,
he's a very right. And then you got guys who are laborers, and you got everything.
Business owners,
business owners,
teens in high school,
pastor,
pastor,
everything. Yeah, Emerson's a therapist or a counselor, right? So yeah, it's a really
and
interesting.
There's all one thing in common.
Yeah, we like to strangle each other. It's just weird.
Yeah. Sweat in someone's mouth. Yep, dude.
Oh, jeez.
The soup. Yeah.
No.
That's probably no one's gonna want to try
I don't
jiu-jitsu
even want
now.
to talk about that.
Yeah. I think everybody needs to know what, this is something I talk about a lot, what drains you and what fills you, right? We all have an emotional tank and it's only so big. And so when it's drained, you're cranky, you're irritable, you're not fun to be around. It's like the day before you go on vacation, you have so much to do at work. You got to get everything done and we got to right? So by the time you start your vacation, oftentimes we're just like so drained and tired. And you're getting to the airport or you're doing the road trip or whatever. And you're just like, this sucks, right? But when you compare that to how you feel at the end of your vacation, like your tank is full, right? You feel rested, you feel emotionally full. So like when my vacation's over, if, whatever someone tells you, it's like, it's fine. It's okay. It's not, I'm not going to freak out. The church burned down. Okay, we'll build another one. It's fine. Like whatever, right? And so everybody's different though in what drains you and what fills you. And so each of us have to identify that, because if you're constantly doing something that drains you and you don't consciously do something that fills you, then you're going to be at a deficit all the time. And then you're going to be no fun to be around. And, people are going to start to avoid you or right. Your relationships start to struggle or whatever. So, like if I do intense counseling with people, it's part of my job. I don't hate it, but it drains me. It emotionally drains me. Or being around negative people, sometimes you can't avoid it.
Right.
It drains me. Speaking in front of a large crowd, I really enjoy it. I have fun doing it, but when I'm done, I'm drained. So I have to do something to fill myself, or else I'll be like scraping the bottom, right? So like for me, what fills me is I like being with my wife. We'll go have lunch together. We'll be together. That fills me. Being around my kids, my grandsons, jiu-jitsu. There's many times where I'll come home from work and she'll be like, "You're going to the farm tonight." Like she can just,
get out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you need to go.
Here's your bag.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how it is. And because she knows, you know what I mean? Like we have a stressful job, and so,
it's that balance.
Yeah.
Yes,
that's one of the hardest things to find. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something that we struggle with sometimes. Like it is hard. It's hard for us to, one, have the time for this, our full-time jobs.
Yes.
Both of our parents, our friends, all that it's hard
Your
to do all of that. And then, time for us, our dogs, and then people are always like, well, when are you going to have kids? And it's like, dude, I can't. That's so overwhelming right now that it's like, I don't even see my parents. Like I need to go see my parents.
I honestly think that we as a society have bought into this idea that if you achieve balance, it's effortless. But that's the exact opposite of the truth. If you balance on one foot, we can't do it right now because we're all wired down and stuff, right? But if I stood up or you stood up and balanced on one foot and you're paying attention to all of the muscles that are engaged in your foot, in your other leg, in your core, right? There's a lot happening to keep you balanced. And so sometimes we have to live lives of intentional imbalance just to keep ourselves sane. Sometimes, if you're training for a tournament, for example, right? Something else has to give. Otherwise you'll be overloaded, right? Yep. Or maybe you're trying to when you guys were getting ready for this, you couldn't be around your friends as much.
Yep.
But you have to live a life of intentional imbalance sometimes. But we can't live there all the time, or eventually something starts to, have you ever had an imbalanced tire on your car?
You can feel it.
Yeah, it's like, boom, 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 boom. Not a big deal. But if you drive that way for a long, long time, it's going to damage your car. Eventually your shocks are messed up, and your mirror starts rattling. Everything starts getting messed up because of that one. So sometimes we have to choose that, but we can't live there. Otherwise, eventually we break down. We're not made to go 24/7. We're not made. I get the guys, that say, you got to grind. I agree. You have to grind. But man, at what cost?
Right.
At some point you have to just say, look, I worked so hard. Let me enjoy some of my life. You know, it can't always just be grind, because then
like
what am I
reward yourself
doing this
at the
for?
end of the day.
Yes, exactly.
And I think that's what we struggle with because we're still, I mean, we're trying to talk to people that are older than us or just people with other types of experience just so we can try to get some of these things down for us. But like, that's it. Almost, it feels like it's impossible sometimes.
You're taking you guys are making a whole stew with all of these different things. And I guarantee there are people who have been on or will be on that'll say things that are completely contrary to what I'm saying. That's okay.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, it's just got to work for you. Right. If I was counseling you guys and you're going to get married, let's say, and I said, how much do you like to have in savings, Anthony? And you said $5,000. Then I asked you, how much do you like to have in savings? And you said $2,000. Okay, we got to figure this out, right? That's a problem. We got to balance that out. Otherwise, there's going to be conflict. So there's some areas of our life where we have to figure it out.
Yep. Other
areas, if you both said 200, I'd be like, that's kind of low. But if you agree on it, that's all that matters. Now you have peace. Cool. I would encourage you to maybe do a little more, but yeah, I mean, whatever.
That's funny you say that. I don't think it's really that way either. I feel like the weird, and we haven't done a lot of podcasts. I think this is 8 or 9.
9.
I think this might be our 9th podcast. So it's funny because we're already starting to see kind of the same reoccurring types of things
Patterns.
that come up. Yeah.
Yes. Success leaves footprints.
Yeah. We were just talking with Emerson and he was talking about like, he wasn't really talking about balance, but he was putting it in different types of like, these are the things that I need to go back to if I find myself, if I'm just like mad or if I feel like I'm just not feeling the same way that I normally am. I need to look at these things like how's my diet? How's my health? Did I clock in for myself today? Did I do stuff for he has a list of things that he does to kind of go and check, but that's his way of looking for balance.
It's good.
But it's literally the exact same thing that you're describing here. It's just, you're trying to fill in all your blanks here.
Right.
And even if it talks about like you coming home and it's like, yeah, go to class. You need to go to class, right? Like it's hard to mediate some of those things because even when you do that, you're pushing something out of the way. And that's what we struggle with, like it's.
And to what end?
Yeah.
When will you know you made it?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's such an elusive moving target, right? When will I know I'm successful? I don't think that won't be defined by anybody except us.
Right.
So what I've done to deal with that in my own heart, at least, is I say this out loud. I say, I'm content. There's something powerful about hearing yourself say something because now you're hearing it in your own voice and you start to believe it. Even if you don't really believe it up front, right? I'm content. Now, it doesn't mean I'm satisfied. I have other stuff I want to do. I've got a lot of plans for our church, for our family, for our marriage, I've got a lot of stuff I want to do. But right here and right now, I've been blessed more than I could ever deserve. I have a beautiful wife that loves me. I've got 3 amazing kids. I've got 2 grandkids. I've got 3 I got a son-in-law and 2 daughter-in-laws that are incredible. I've got my friend Anthony here. I'm sitting on this awesome couch in this podcast. I'm content, man. I'm right here and right now. I'm good. If we don't say that, if we don't take those moments and say, you know what? This is good. We're good. This is good right now. We'll never say it. And we'll always be
right.
Someday when we get everything put together, then life's really going to be good. Then when we, the list always changes. When we have kids, when the kids can put on their own shoes, when we get rid of the kids, when we buy a house, when we sell the house, when we finish the basement, we get the yard, and then it's always going to be a moving target. So we have learned to right here and right now, I'm content. I'm good. And if nothing else, I'm hearing myself say it. I believe it. I really am. Right here, right now, I'm content. I want a black belt someday, right? But right here and right now, I'm content.
That makes me think of a quote I read. It talks about how being content is happiness and comfort is the death of you, right? So, that's like, a couple of years ago when we really started pushing ourselves onto this kind of path of this journey, we started realizing like comfort is really like probably one of our biggest enemies. Like it kind of like holds us back from a lot of things.
That's good. Yeah.
But content, like that's the perfect way to put it. Like if you aren't content, I feel like you could really, you're taking everything for granted. Like I just turned 26 like a week ago, and it's the weirdest time of my life right now because one, I'm not the youngest person at my job anymore, which is kind of weird.
That's an interesting moment when that starts to happen.
I still feel like I just graduated, which was a century ago. It feels like already, actually, if I really break it down. But then at the same time, like I still feel like I'm really young, but it feels like I'm reaching the tipping point, and it's such a strange feeling. I don't like it. I don't really know how to fucking explain it to me.
No, I hear you. Yeah.
But I think that's perfect. So we're trying to struggle with we're trying to figure out the struggle of like being content and like, obviously I want to grind now while we're young, and I don't want to have to do it as much when we're older. That's definitely obviously goals. But I also don't want to miss out on things while I am in my 20s, like we still try to do as much as we can. Like we try to travel, we're trying to do all these other things, but it just goes back to making it almost feel like it's impossible to mitigate everything together.
Right.
Like, holy cow.
I would encourage you to play it out in your head. Okay. So here's what I mean by that. Let's say that everything you're grinding for, right? Whatever it is, whether it's a dollar amount, I want to have X amount in our savings, X amount of listeners, X amount of subscribers, whatever it is, right? It's different for everybody. I could say X amount of people in my church. I could, X amount of people on our social media, whatever, right?
Right.
Let's say that tomorrow you had double that. Let's just say, you know what would happen? I guarantee what would happen. You say, you know what? Today we have 500. Tomorrow you woke up with 1,000. You know what you start thinking about? How do I get to 1,500?
Yep.
Right? That's what I mean. It's that it's a treadmill.
Yeah.
That never satisfied, kind of like hunger.
So if you can be satisfied or content, satisfaction is the wrong word. I'm not satisfied, but I am content. And so if you can be content right here and right now,
like being present.
Yes, right. I'm here. But without being comfortable,
right?
Because it would be easy to take your foot off the pedal and say, we're good. That's not it either. But man, if we can't ever stop and just enjoy, like
talking about
Go
that,
ahead.
there's a saying, I actually saw it on Kung Fu Panda. It's like the turtle talking. It says, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. And that's why it's called present.
Yes,
I love that.
That's like so like crazy.
That is like when I say this, but sometimes I'll say, we could all be dead tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, so then what? Let's just enjoy today, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And, again, I still have stuff I want to do. I still got, like Rocky, I still got some stuff in the basement. You know what I mean? I don't know, Rocky 38 or I don't know what Rocky it was. I still got stuff in the basement. Yes, I do. And you guys are young. You still got a lot you want to do. But you also have, you have a beautiful life right now. Just enjoy it and appreciate it. And it'll never be this exact same way again.
Seriously.
Right. Yeah.
Every time we have a podcast, I feel like we realize even more how much, like, we're so blessed, man.
Yes.
And it's hard to complain. And I've started to realize that at first I was blaming it on just being older because I thought it was funny. But I feel like I'm starting to be a little bit more of an asshole in the aspects of like,
I've never thought of you like that.
Just one, I know, dude.
It's interesting.
I try to be as nice as possible. Honest, like seriously, I really do. I really try to be a nice person. Sometimes it slips, and it's my mouth that gets me in trouble every time. But I'm starting to realize that I just like when I'm around people that just complain all the time, like I can't hold my tongue, and I just say the things that I'm thinking, and it's usually not the best things. And I should definitely think on some of those things before I say it. But I'm just starting to get to the point where it's just like, dude, like it's not that bad. Like just figure it out, man. Like
here's the challenge around complaining. Okay. So we all have been around people who complain. My life is getting worse and worse. You see people, Andy Andrews, he's a motivational speaker. I heard him talk about this one time and it so resonated with me. He said, we all have people that we know that if we ask them, how are you doing? They're going to tell us. And we don't want them to tell us, right? Like, how you doing? Oh, terrible. The sewer got backed up again. The cat's pregnant. She's not even married. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like when you see them in the grocery store, you're just like, oh, shoot, did they see me? You know what I mean? Like, right? Every good thing, just about every good thing that happens in our lives comes through people. It comes through other people, opportunities, relationship, just about you think about every good thing that's happened in your life, it's probably come through some other person. If you complain, if those guys that are negative and complainers, what they're doing is you avoid them. So does everybody else. Mm-hmm. So all of the things that they're saying, my life's getting worse and worse, it really is, because they're getting less opportunities. They're having less relationships. They're having, no one's opening the doors for them.
Yep.
And their life really is getting worse and worse. Now, if you flip that with somebody who, no matter what's going on, they're always up. It's just, everything's good. Carlos Rubio strikes me that way from the farm. Just always, hey, Brother Bear. He's just always
what's positive. Up, baby?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so I like being around like people like that, right? Mm-hmm. So if I have an opportunity that I can flip to someone, I'm going to give it to him because I like being around him. And so maybe I'll be around him more. That works in every area of our lives. So, and I'm a human being, right? Sometimes I catch myself complaining or being, and then I'm like, nah, that's not, I only have so many more days on this planet, man. I'm not going to spend them doing that. So anyway,
No, that was perfect, dude. I feel like you filled in a lot of the blanks that I was thinking about of situations that I am specifically thinking about. But that was perfect. You just hit that right on the nail.
Anger is a reaction to injustice. I don't know if you've ever thought about that. So you're driving down the highway and someone cuts you off, right? Why do you get angry? Because they're not supposed to do that. So that was wrong, right? So, or you see something happening and you're like, somebody should do something about this.
Put your mask on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's a whole different rabbit trail.
I'm on the other side of the street.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I just listened. Anyway, yeah. You know what that's doing? That's giving.
But I'm outside.
That's giving people who have no power with a new set of rules that nobody else can fight them with, because it's, anyway.
Yeah.
I heard Joe Rogan say that, so I can't even take the credit. But I forgot what we were talking about. But anyway, that's because that gets me too.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I'm so mad. You just made me so pissed.
Yeah, negative people. Yeah, that's the point. Yeah. So, and maybe that goes back to that law of attraction, right? If you're positive, people want to be around you.
Yeah.
And so all of those good things that come through those relationships, they come to you.
Yeah.
When you were explaining that story, I thought of something. It's kind of random. I don't know if it's like super.
Put your mask on.
Do you? I feel like this is a pretty small town.
Yeah.
I definitely get small town vibes all the time. It reminds me. I feel like almost every day that I'm here.
You grew up here, though.
Yeah. I grew up here. Yeah, which may be the problem.
Central,
actually,
Greeley Central.
I went to Frontier Academy.
Oh, Frontier. Okay.
Yeah.
Wolverines.
Yep. That's me. Yep. There's another word for it, but I'm not going to talk about that. Okay. I had to pull it out of another podcast.
Yeah.
Anyways,
you could tell me after.
Yeah.
No, I want to know.
I forgot what I was saying. Oh yeah. Okay. So we're in a small town. Do you feel like, this is super random and I struggle with this, so maybe you have a tip for it. But since if you're in a small town, do you feel like you run into a lot of people, like if you're at the store and stuff? Like, are you a person that shies away, that is kind of like, that's Bob, or because that's me. Like I see anybody from my high school, and I'm always just like, I don't want to.
Yeah, you just want to freak out. Yeah,
it's like run down the aisle and like.
Why do you think you feel that way?
I don't know.
I
really got to figure out. Yeah,
I have a problem. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think I just don't want to see anybody.
You don't strike me as an insecure person. So I don't think that's it. Yeah, I don't get that from you at all. So I think it's got to be. I mean, sometimes we're selfish. Like, I just don't want to deal with it. I just, let me just pretend I didn't see him. That way I can move on with my time. Right. Yeah. we all do it. I mean, I hope none of my church people are listening, but we all do it.
Yeah.
And I like engaging with people. I like, I probably, for example, back to the farm, I probably sit on the mat and talk more than I should. Because I just like to hear people's story, like what and so I like doing that.
Yeah.
But however, in a very, what's the word I would look for? Very people-centered profession like I have. Sometimes it's draining. Sometimes it's draining engaging with people over and over.
Yes.
And over.
Okay. I think that's exactly what it is because, I guess for instance, for me, like if you're dealing with somebody, constantly all day as like a job, let's say, right? And that's what you do. You're customer service, you're a sales rep or whatever it may be. And when you're outside of work, you want to do the complete opposite.
Right,
you know,
yeah.
you don't want to talk to people, like, you know, so
Right.
yeah, I think that would be it.
That's understood. Yeah. So that's so to your point. Yeah. So
I just feel guilty sometimes, like afterwards, I'm like,
You're
why
a
am I
human
like
being.
that? Why didn't I just go and say hi?
I know, psycho Jews.
I just feel like it just made it worse. Now they're going to think I'm an asshole.
you're overthinking it. You know what they're thinking? They're thinking, I wonder what he's thinking. Like,
They're like, oh, did he see me?
exactly. That's what they're
Probably
thinking.
thinking the exact same thing. Like, oh,
In reverse. Yeah.
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 Like I remember when you're in junior high, every junior higher is worried about what everybody else is thinking about them. And then you grow up and you realize they weren't thinking about you.
Right.
They were worried what you were thinking about them.
Yeah.
Right? We never grow out of that. We never ever grow out of that. And so we each are the main character in our own life story, and everyone else is a supporting actor.
Mm-hmm.
We don't realize that in their story, they're the main character. We're supporting actors. So in their narrative, yeah, I think as you're trying to, so I've had the occasion to sit with I've spoken a lot of colleges and high schools.
I was going to ask you about that actually.
Yeah. So here's my thoughts on figuring it out, right? Okay. So here's the overwhelming feeling that a lot of juniors, seniors, college juniors, seniors, even people entering college, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? I have to figure that out, right?
Yeah.
We don't live in the 50s. In the 50s, people worked for the same company for 40 years, then they got a gold watch, and then they retired.
This is
That was
perfect.
how it is. Yeah. We live in an economy now where the average person, last I heard, is going to work 11 different jobs, and many of them are going to be in different career fields. And so instead of trying to figure out, here's what I want to do for the rest of my life, what am I really passionate about? Instead of all that, I always tell young people, look, just figure out what you're going to do first. Just start there. The thing that you're going to end up doing, you might not even know what it is yet. It might not even be invented yet. So just don't sweat it. Just start with something that you're passionate about. Okay, what are you passionate about? Well, what gets you mad? Like, do you ever look around and say, somebody should do something about this? Maybe you're that somebody. Maybe you're the one that's got to do something about it. I remember looking around saying, what Greeley needs? It needs a different kind of church. There's a lot of great churches in Greeley. I'm friends with a lot of the pastors, but I just felt like, well, who's going to do something? I'll do something. I'll do it. And if I fail, so what? Like, at least we'll go out swinging. At least I'll know. I'll find out about myself. And I'll never be wondering anymore, did I have what it took to do it?
Yeah.
So
That's absolutely perfect. I wish I would have heard
Seriously.
that when I was 17, 18.
yeah.
Because I still feel
Takes the pressure off.
Yeah, we still bring that up. Where it's just like I still feel like, fuck, dude, I had a lot of pressure. It feels like a lot of pressure when you're 18, and especially, I mean, at Frontier, everybody was pretty. This is a smarter school, so like everybody's going to pretty big schools, and they're like everybody's got pretty big
They have their
plans for
plan.
degrees,
Yeah.
lawyers, all this stuff. You're like, God, man, like I don't know,
Right.
and it's like. It's almost like frowned upon to be like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to Ames. And it's like, really? You're going to go to Ames? And it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else? I don't know.
I taught at Ames, and I get that. I get the whole, I'm just here. Right.
Yeah.
And I talked to a lot of students that were there, and it wasn't good for my career at Ames, but I would be like, maybe this isn't the right time for you to go to school. Like, you don't know what you want to do. It's okay. Go out and try something. What would you do if what do you like to do?
Right.
Start there.
Yeah. I just turned 26. We've been trying to figure this out since we graduated, and I don't really know exactly what we're trying to do, but now I have a better plan. And like, I feel like I'm looking at what our goals are now.
I mean, you guys are doing something really significant here. And I feel like you're overlooking it as a tool. Like, hey, we're doing this to get to this place. This is pretty awesome, man. Like, don't discount what you've done. Not two schmucks could not have pulled this off. Couldn't have recruited Jenny from the block to do this. You know what I mean? Like, this is pretty significant, man. You guys are really, and I know what's normal to us is sometimes abnormal to other people, right? It's natural for me, it's supernatural for other people. They look and say, how could you ever do that, right? You tell people, well, I entered a tournament and we were going to try and submit each other in California. Like, people were like, that's insane. I would never do that. Mm-hmm. But you've gotten down the road in steps. And so it just feels like the next natural progression, right? Mm-hmm. Don't overlook this big thing that you guys have, because this is incredible. I think it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, man.
I know, seriously, thank you. That is, and I feel like that's something that we sometimes, like, again, you know, trying to be in the present moment, trying to be.
Yeah, that's the perfect example of that. Yeah,
yeah, literally it is.
Yeah, I wasn't even realizing that.
Did you show?
But yeah, no, I love jiu-jitsu, man. It's really brought us into a lot of opportunities like this. I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't have met Henry. I wouldn't have met Emerson. This has been really big for us.
Yeah.
I feel like I really like to think that I'm really introverted. I feel like I'm really shy, especially like if I'm in the grocery store. I don't want to see people that I know. You know what I mean? So when we started doing this, I would like to think that I'm trying to open up a little bit more, because I mean, really, we're trying to just figure things out.
Yes.
So
would you say he's shy?
He can be. He can be. But then once he gets comfortable, you get this.
Yeah, whatever that is.
Yeah, I was in jiu-jitsu I've only been doing it for 4 years. How long have you been doing it?
Just about the same amount of time. Yeah, I think 2000, I want to say 17, like December maybe.
Okay. So I started in January of 2017, I think.
Oh, really?
I don't know. Anyway. But so we've traveled, whenever we travel, I take my gi and I'm like, let me see if I can roll somewhere. And we were in Mexico in Rocky Point. What's it called? Puerto Peñasco.
Oh, nice.
And I got on Facebook and I found a gym there. And I'm talking to him in my jacked up Spanish. Can I come? Yeah, come, whatever. Here's when our class is. So I show up at this, and it was like, Puerto Peñasco is like, it's like Cancun, and that town from the Three Amigos had a baby. You know what I mean? Like, what's that town? Anyway, someone listening is like, I know that town, right? Anyway, Nacho Libre's town. And so some of it is like really like nice and restaurants, and then some of it is dirt roads and just like, which I dig both, to be honest. But so I'm in the sketchy dirt road adobe house part, right? In a rental car that I drove across the border. And so I'm driving around and I'm like, I'm not finding this place. So I go to this water. They have these stores in Mexico where they just sell water, like these big 5-gallon jugs and little, they small water like this. Mm-hmm. So I walk in and there's a guy in there with one arm, right? And I'm like, hey man, can I get some water, whatever? I'm looking for, do you know anything about a jiu-jitsu place? And he goes, well, we're going to be starting in like a half hour. I was like, okay, cool. Where is it? He's like, you go down that street, you turn right, you turn left, you're going to see a house with a red door. Knock on that door. Don't let the dogs in.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm getting robbed today, but I got to know. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I did it. He goes, come back in about half hours. So I did it, and it was a blast. Like, I had a blast rolling. There was about 6 guys there.
Damn.
What?
The highest rank was a blue belt.
Ooh.
And so it was me and their blue belt going at it. And then I had just got my blue belt, I think. So it was, I've had so many fun experiences like that. And I rolled with the one-armed guy who was really good. And I was in England, and we went to, what is his name? Roger Gracie's gym.
Oh, yeah?
And I just, hey man, I'm from America. Can I roll? And it's instant community, instant family, instant, bro.
That's
because the human body is a human body.
Yeah,
so I don't care if you're British, Brazilian, whatever. We're all,
Well, I mean, how often do you meet like a douchebag MMA guy?
Never.
I don't think I've ever met it.
Yeah.
It's such a humbling sport.
Yes.
I just don't know if that's like really possible. You have to really be a character.
I stopped at, I saw George St. Pierre was at Grudge Training Center in Denver once. And I was just flying home from speaking at some school. So I just drove there from the airport. And I just walked in.
Yeah.
And they're like, can I help you? And I said, yeah, I saw George is here on Twitter. I'm just a fan. Hold on. They went back, got him. He came out. We were standing there chopping it up for a while.
What?
We got a picture. Yeah. I did that with
cool.
Uriah Faber. I stopped at his gym.
You saying the same thing with Danaher too?
Yeah, I met John Danaher. I met, I met, I just
That's
show
wild.
up and I just walked in and like I could see Uriah Faber through a reflection of a window in an office. He was eating ramen noodles. And this guy goes back and says, hey, there's someone here to see you. He came out. We talked for like 10 minutes.
Dude.
Super cool guy. I've never met a jerk doing
Yeah. Honestly, that's a good point. And we talked about it a little bit earlier. It's amazing, even when it comes to like this podcast, it is kind of weird asking people to come on. It's just a little uncomfortable, but it amazes me. Everybody is so willing, you know, and you're saying that before, you're like, I never get a no. Like, you just have to ask. I feel like there's so many situations where just the hard part is asking, but if you just ask, like it goes a long way. Like that's helped us out a lot. That's helped us get really far. And that's crazy, dude. I mean, it's not easy in those situations, but it's our community, man.
Right.
That's what we live. That's what we do here.
Yeah.
So it's the same everywhere.
I was walking through Irvine Spectrum Mall. It's an outdoor mall in Southern California.
Yeah.
And I watched UFC 1. So like I think I was 20, 21 maybe when that came out. So I remember watching UFC 1.
Dang.
So there was a guy named Kimo Leopoldo. I don't know if you ever remember who he was. He was this heavily tattooed, super jacked. I think he was Samoan. And he would come out. He had Jesus tattooed on his stomach. He'd carry a cross. He was like WWE kind of.
Yeah.
But he was the first guy to stop Hoist Gracie.
Oh.
And so that was a huge deal. It was like UFC 3 or 4. Technically, Hoist beat him, but Hoist couldn't continue in the tournament. So he was the first guy to like stop Hoist, right? So I'm walking through Irvine. I see him and it was at night and I was like, oh my gosh, that's Kimo Leopoldo. So I said, Kimo. I just yelled his name and he looks at me like kind of aggressive, like, yes, exactly. And I was like, oh my gosh.
You're like, shit.
What do I do
It
now?
is him.
So I walked up. I said, hey, man, I'm just a fan. I'm a big fan of yours, whatever. And I'm a pastor from Colorado. And we started talking. I ended up praying with him. Like, he was super cool.
That is
Vanderlei
awesome.
Silva.
Dude.
Like, I stopped at his gym and
That's the best segue though. You like, I'm a pastor from
I know,
Colorado.
right?
exactly. That's what I told Vanderlei.
Completely nonviolent. They're like, oh, I like this guy. Okay, yeah,
He's
what's up, man?
Vanderlei goes, Pastor, you are a pastor. And I said, yeah, I'm a pastor. Pray for me, Pastor. And he hugged me. And so now I'm standing in Vanderlei's gym hugging him. And his back is so jacked. And I was like, this is the muscliest back I've ever felt. I felt like, he's like, we're hugging and we're like hugging and he goes, pray for me, Pastor. Okay, yeah, I forgot what we're doing. Yeah, okay, yeah, pray for you. All right. Yeah, he's like, come back tonight and I'm going to be sparring. So I went back and watched him spar. And
that's awesome.
It was amazing. Yeah. It's just asking, showing up and trying it.
Did you know that he was Danny was his sparring partner?
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Yeah.
Oh.
That's like his
Vanderlei,
boy.
for those of you that are like not into MMA, he's one of the original like innovators and he was one of the first killers in UFC, Pride. I mean, he was they called him the Axe Murderer. Yeah, he was a super nice guy though. Just again, that community, right? Like,
Yeah.
we're a part of this community.
Maybe I'm thinking of Verdum.
Yeah, Fabricio Verdum was his training
That's who
partner.
he was.
For sure,
Yeah.
But Danny's got a picture with Vanderlei on the wall in
that's
the
in
gym.
there.
Yeah. So yeah.
Even that blows my mind how small of a community it really is too.
Mhm.
Like seeing how many people are from Colorado.
Right. Yeah. From Greeley.
Yeah.
Yeah. Macy Barber.
That's what we were just talking
Really?
about. Mm-hmm.
Justin Gaethje.
Gaethje trained at UNC.
UNC.
Yeah, there's so many
Shane
people.
Carwin.
Shane Carwin's
Ron
from
Waterman.
Mm.
here. Yep. Even
now
people
we
from
got
Fort
Justin
Collins.
Gonzalez.
Yeah, everywhere. Fort Collins, Denver. It's
Anthony
huge.
Gonzalez.
Who's that guy?
Angel Flores.
I know that guy, Pastor Disaster. Yeah, that guy's a beast.
Yeah. It's crazy how Greeley has turned out some killers.
Are you going to compete this summer?
I don't know. It messes me up so much. Like
It surprises me every time I hear you're competing. I'm like, oh shit, damn,
Yeah,
I
Diane.
need to compete. Fuck, you make me feel bad.
yeah, she hates when I compete because for about 2 weeks I'm a zombie because I'm
Yeah,
just
you gotta
thinking
get
about
in
you know
it.
how you're thinking about it and
Well, it's because you get the nerves. The first thing is always like, okay, what's the first thing we do? We bump. Okay, I think I could do that. Okay, cool. What comes after that? Oh man, I suck at that.
Yeah. This man's going to try and.
Yeah. It's like, all right, I need to binge some videos.
When you're in the gym, you know, we're friends and I want to make sure you go to work tomorrow and I'm going to take care of you. You're going to take care of me.
It's not
in
like
a tournament, it's just like one of us is submitting. However,
I don't know you, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about you. And
It's
so,
different, yeah.
it gets really messy. You know, I mean, I don't think unless you're a little mentally off, I think everybody's afraid. I'm afraid. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm afraid. I'm going to get hurt. I'm afraid I'm going to be humiliated. It's just all of it, right? It's just afraid. And so you show up, but there's something so satisfying about taking that person inside of you that's afraid and saying, you're doing it anyway.
Yeah.
Like, let's go. We're going to find out.
I don't think anybody wants to get in a fight.
Sure. Yeah.
Nobody wants
Unless
to get in a fight.
Unless you're a mental social deviant, you know.
Yeah.
Then I'm sure there's a few of those. But even at the farm, those guys get weeded out really fast.
Yeah.
You get choked out a couple
usually
times.
there's a problem behind it. It's not really, it's with different intention for sure.
Yes. And so to compete, I don't know. I might. There's a tournament in the end of May, one in the 1st of June.
Dude, Island Grove.
Right.
There's one in Island Grove.
It's our backyard, man.
Yeah.
We got to do the one in our backyard.
Yeah.
Danny, hold it down, dude.
Danny asked me about that one today.
You can't have no other pastors come down from other towns.
You could have a pastors tournament.
This is my town.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. It messes me up, man. So I don't know. We'll see. I've competed 4 times.
Okay.
So, yeah.
It is pretty wild. I feel like getting a purple belt scares me more than competing again.
Yeah.
That makes me more nervous. I don't think.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
I mean,
I said the same thing to Henry. He was like, no, we've had our blue belts for like 2.5 years. It's about time. I'm like, what? I don't.
I got mine on my birthday 2 years ago.
That's
we got promoted
cool.
the same day.
Maybe was it 3 years ago?
Yeah, we had the same promotion.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It was April.
April.
Damn,
it was
that's
my
good
birthday.
memory,
April
dude.
20, it was my birthday, April 26th. So that's how I remember.
Dang.
Yeah, but I don't remember what. I think it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, I want to say 2 years ago.
So,
because it was a year before COVID. So yeah, 2 years.
yeah.
Because I remember looking at my pictures in the middle of COVID and it was us going through the gauntlet. I'm just like, damn. And that's when the gym was closed. We couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
It was probably the worst part of COVID.
That was no fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't know what the gauntlet is, those of you who are joining us online, after you get promoted in some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gyms, everybody lines up on both sides of you and you walk through this gauntlet of grown men whipping you with their belts. And it's horrible.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's so wild. When you showed me that the first time, I'm like, what?
Why are you doing this?
You're letting them do this?
That's a great question. Diane was there when I got, and yeah, she's like, something's wrong with you. Yeah.
You're like, this is what you like to come and do every day for an hour?
She's like, I can do that.
Yeah, for sure.
She's like, I'm not going to tell you not to do this because maybe you have some bigger issues here.
She's like, give me one of those belts.
Yeah. Can I join the line? Yeah, seriously. She's like, I got my own belt. It's okay.
Oh, man.
Thanks.
That would be hilarious.
No, it is a crazy thing, man. And it's just always developing. I think that's why I love it so much. It's a never ending little battle.
Right.
So
For sure. Yeah.
I'm excited, man. I'm glad that it brought us together. I think that's pretty cool. So it's a small town. I feel like it probably would have happened eventually, but timing is everything.
Yeah.
So I think this was perfect.
I do think, God ultimately has a plan, and we talk about human chess, right? God is playing this 3-dimensional game of chess.
Mhm.
It's not just up and back. There's 12 layers of this chess game God's playing.
Yep.
And so sometimes when you make a move, all of a sudden something happens that he's been orchestrating for years. You just never know. So keep your eyes open, keep your heart open, be open. Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in the next 5-10 years?
Oh man. I feel like our professionally as our church, I think we're really in we have a lot of feeling of momentum. We're growing. We were growing a lot before COVID, and then COVID happened, and it was really challenging, but it also made us innovate a lot and do things that we had never done. And so now we're so much better at online than we ever were before. And so that we've ultimately come out of it better.
Just adapting so fast.
Yeah, it's adapting. We had to figure out how to go completely 100% online in 3 days.
Wow.
And it was crazy. My associate, his name's Ben Larson. He was the brains behind that. He just made it happen. And so he really kept us alive. But that made us better. And so as you know, even though I didn't like it, it made us better. And so for Mosaic, we have some plans. We have some things we want to do. We would like to start other campuses and kind of branch out and spread out over Northern Colorado. I definitely see that happening within the next 10 years. And then personally, once we finish our 50th state here soon, we're going to start doing more international traveling.
Okay.
We want to knock out Israel. We want to go to Greece. There's some of that stuff. When I was in 9th grade, my teacher, his name was Mr. Barr. He said, just in class, we're in social studies. And he said, Angel, the whole world is not like Fort Lupton. You should check it out. See for yourself. Right. So I was like, and that just stuck with me. And so that's probably part of what spurred the amount of traveling that we've done, just to find it out, check it out. And he's right. Even just in the U.S., it's so diverse, so many things to see. And so a few years ago, I wrote a book for first generation college students. And so I dedicated it to Mr. Barr. And I just said, you lit such a fire in me. Right. So that was so I looked him up. He's still alive. And so we did a book release party and I invited him to this book release party and he showed up.
Wow.
And so it was here in Greeley. So he came, hadn't seen him in, 30 years, 20 some years. And so, I got up, I told the story, honored him, whatever. And then after we were all done, I presented him a copy of the book, thanked him for coming. And he pulls me aside and he goes, you know what, Angel? I got to be honest with you. I don't remember you at all.
Oh my God.
But it was such a good, yeah, it was awesome.
You're like, thanks for that. I needed that.
You changed my life. Yeah. But it's such a good reminder that something that seems small for us, right? It seems insignificant. We just never know what impact we could be having on another person with just our words. There's that, sticks and stones may break my bones, but that is a lie. Like words are powerful. And
seriously.
We can build and we can heal or we can destroy. And every one of us has had our confidence shattered at one time or another by somebody, this. And so we have this incredible power to speak into other people's lives just with, looking at someone and saying, that was great. Good job. I'm glad you're here. I'm so glad you're a part of my life.
Well, that's what's so perfect about this platform is we want to, obviously we love these conversations just point blank.
Right. Yeah.
But putting it on a platform where we're able to record it and
share it.
Re-listen to it or share it to somebody else we might think is interested or anybody that just wants to tune in because it may be interesting. Like, I feel like that's huge, man. Cool. Like we're not the only ones that are looking for answers. So
yes, exactly. Exactly. Well, cool.
Yeah.
So,
well, this was awesome. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it.
My honor.
Yeah. Thank you again. We're going to have you back on again just so we can dive into this a little bit more.
I'd love to. I'd be honored.
So hell yeah, we'll have you guys back on. So thank you for coming on.
All right.
Thank you for everybody that's tuning in. Make sure you subscribe and hit the like button and that little bell over there to make sure you get the notifications for when we upload a new podcast. So thank you guys again. I think that's it. Let's get out of here.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
All right.
Thank you for joining us today. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode.